Hey y'all. Today we get to talk about day 3 of Harry and Meghan's trip down under. I'm not going to stop until the trip is over. So as far as me saying Australia ever again, it might not happen. But I will say this. We're going to have a good time talking about day 3. I have thoughts, so let's get into it.
I gave Harry some flowers and they both wished me good luck on my journey and to keep being brave.
I don't get off of the ward very much, so it was very nice to come down and be human.
It was very exciting and I just loved Meghan's dress. It was so pretty.
1, 2, 3. Fantastic.
Very emotional seeing Harry.
It's cool, like at school I can just say, like, I met Harry, the prince, and that he's like my friend.
It seems like a normal bloke. So I think we'll leave happy. I think it's once in a, as I said before, once in a lifetime kind of thing. I'm glad I was actually surprised he stopped to say hi. Yeah, it's fantastic.
Will we get to see you back in Australia soon, Meghan? Oh gosh, I'd love to come back. It's brilliant here.
Well, we're here in Melbourne CBD on the banks of the Yarra River. Behind me, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, Meghan and Harry, taking part in a cultural walk on what is their final day of their whirlwind tour here in Melbourne before they head to Sydney.
You look amazing. You look like a model. You do. And you've got children, you've got our wrinkles. Nice, lovely. You are so nice. It was nice to meet you.
Oh, the cyclists. You enjoying being in Australia?
That's wonderful. It's great to be back.
Anything to say to the Australian public?
Thanks for having us back.
Thank you.
That's fine.
This tour is going so well. People are so happy to see Harry and Meghan. Harry and Meghan seem to be having the time of their lives. They're addressing so many important topics, connecting with so many people, changing lives every day, one person at a time. It's been really great to witness this. And you can just see the looks on people's faces and hear their comments. They are elated that Harry and Meghan are there. And I'm so happy for them. A little jealous because if they could just bring that tour to Dallas, I would really appreciate it. I can set up some tour spots, so y'all let me know. But if they could bring that to Dallas, I'd be so happy. But for now, I will just obsess from afar and be very, very jealous of all of you in Australia. So today we're going to cover day 3 from Sussex.com, from People Magazine, and from a few other sources. I have a lot of thoughts of what was covered so far, especially some of the comments that Meghan made. I definitely want to address some of those things. But before we do, if you haven't already, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. We're going to start with Sussex.com, directly from the source, with their latest update titled Listening, Learning, and Taking Action for Mental Wellness. The Duke and Duchess of Sussex began the day with a deeply meaningful cultural experience on Melbourne's Yarra River, joining the Koorie Heritage Trust for the Birrarung Wilam River Camp Walk, a guided tour that traces more than 60,000 years of Aboriginal history and connection to country. For the Duke and Duchess, the visit was a chance to listen and learn directly from First Peoples' voices, while paying respect to the enduring history and custodianship of the land. Over the last few days, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex met with partners, young people, and community leaders who are reimagining how we support mental well-being at home, in schools, and in the workplace. Centered on lived experience and practical solutions, these conversations reflect a shared commitment to building cultures of care where people are connected to one another, feel safe to speak up, and empowered to take meaningful action. Yesterday, the Duke joined leaders from Movember to launch a new report on healthy fatherhood at Mission Whitten Oval, the training and administrative headquarters of the Western Bulldogs Football Club. Movember is one of the world's leading charities dedicated to improving men's health with a focus on mental fitness, suicide prevention, prostate cancer, and testicular cancer. Through its work, Movember has helped open conversations and challenge long-standing stigmas, encouraging men to seek support, stay connected, and prioritize their well-being. At the Oval, the Duke took part in a discussion with Movember's Global Director of Men's Health Research, Dr. Zach Seidler. During this conversation, the Duke and Dr. Seidler explored the findings of Movember's report and the importance of supporting fathers in building strong, healthy relationships with their children. The report features some noteworthy statistics on generational shifts in parenting and areas where more support was needed. For example, 72% of fathers said they're more involved in the daily care of their kids than their own fathers were. 74% say I love you more than they heard it growing up. Over 60% of fathers recognized that when they were struggling emotionally, it directly affected their partner and children. Nearly half the fathers surveyed said fatherhood prompted them to get a health check they'd otherwise have skipped. 3 in 5 fathers reported that they were never asked by a health professional how they were coping in the months leading up to becoming a father, nor in the first year after birth. Oh. Drawing on his own experiences, the Duke spoke to the critical role of presence, emotional openness, and community in shaping positive outcomes for families. The conversation echoed themes the Duke had championed globally: that mental health is foundational to strong families and thriving communities, and that early intervention and open dialogue can be life-changing. That is absolutely true. Following the panel, the event moved on to the Oval to kick the ball around with some of the children and dads that attended the event. The Duke and assembled families were given a crash course in Aussie rules footy by some of the Western Bulldogs Doggo pros. The Duke and Duchess also visited batyr, an Australian organization at the forefront of preventative mental health education and early intervention that has been leading the conversation around digital safety in the country. Since its founding in 2011, batyr has worked to reduce stigma and encourage help seeking among young people, delivering peer-to-peer programs across schools, universities, and workplaces. The visit to batyr focused on a central idea: when young people lead the conversation on mental health, solutions become more honest, relevant, and effective. Upon arrival, the Duke and Duchess met a group of young leaders who were participating in a 2-day workshop focused on digital wellness and mental health. The cohort represented young perspectives from across Australia, including rural and remote regions. Through creative exercises, the group had developed visual storyboards exploring solutions to some of the most pressing challenges facing their generation, from navigating social media pressures to building healthier online habits. The couple spent time listening directly to the students as they shared their ideas and personal reflections. The storyboards displayed across the space offered a powerful visual representation of both the challenges young people face and the solutions they are actively shaping. The conversations reinforced a central tenet of batyr's approach: that lived experience is not only valid, but essential. By equipping young people with the language and confidence to speak openly about mental health, batyr is helping to build a culture where seeking support is normalized and encouraged. I absolutely love that they're addressing the cultural issue and the absence in our current society of normalizing asking for help. Too often when people ask for help, and I don't know if it's still this way, but I know for a very long time it was, when you ask for help or you mention that you may be going through something, people tend to just kind of rush you along. Like, oh, well, it'll always get better. Don't worry, just live through it. It's fine. Or they'll do the thing, it'll be all right. Like, people are so quick to try to band-aid an emotional or mental issue as opposed to just simply listening. And I understand that because we have yet to destigmatize mental health issues and just honestly emotional unrest of any kind, a lot of times people want to soothe you quickly so we can move on because it's uncomfortable. And I think a large part of that is just not knowing what to say. Now, I also want to point out, this is so important from a cultural standpoint, from a societal standpoint, because the more people that understand how important it is to be there for one another, the more we will start to normalize language, but also responses to people being in distress. How do we respond? And I think a lot of times people rush you along or try to do the quick, fast Band-Aid soothing because they don't know what to say. And I also like to remind people can only connect to you emotionally as far as they've connected with themselves. So if people aren't willing to let themselves cry, if people aren't willing to acknowledge like this hurts, if people aren't willing to acknowledge like mental health issues are real, mental health is important, mental illness is real, I need to do something about this, these are red flags, I should be concerned right now. If they aren't willing to say that to themselves, when they hear you say that to them or hear you say that aloud, that's terrifying because I don't know what to do with this. I don't do this with myself, so I don't know how to respond to you because I'm not even compassionate or empathetic with myself. I don't allow myself to be vulnerable. So why would I allow you to be vulnerable with me? That's why it's so important that we start to build the foundation of a healthy mental health, healthy culture around mental health and mental health discussions, as well as mental illness. Once we destigmatize some of these common beliefs that people have about mental illness, but also just mental distress in general, even grief, once we start to destigmatize these things, once we start to correct the narratives around these things, once we start to recognize that your body is real, everything inside it is real, and it has natural, organic reactions to things, and not just physical, but emotional and mental. And we are all just doing our best. And it doesn't make you enter pejorative here. It doesn't make you anything negative to simply say, I'm not at 100% today, or I'm feeling XYZ. And the person next to you, because this has now been normalized, will know what to say rather than, oh, it'll be all right. Or what doesn't kill you make you stronger. Or don't worry about it. Or don't complain. What can you be grateful for instead? So often people use being grateful as a pivot or a deflection from actually being vulnerable. And I need people to recognize that nuance exists. I can be absolutely grateful for everything I have while also still being in distress that my grandfather died. Like, I can absolutely be grateful that I have a loving husband and I have 2 very healthy dogs. I have an amazing niece in college. I have an amazing nephew in school. I'm so blessed. I have my health. I have all of you. And then I can still say, my God, it was really hard to get out of bed today knowing that my grandfather is not alive. I can still say that and still say, oh, that really stings. And I don't have to worry about the person to my left or my right saying, oh, well, yeah, but he wouldn't want you to be sad. He would want you to just get over it, which is advice I was given, by the way. Unsolicited advice of like, well, he wouldn't want you to sit around being sad. And I'm like, well, actually, I'm on the treadmill, so I'm not sitting, but I am sad. And while he wouldn't want me to be sad, he would still understand that I'm going to be. Until I see him again, I will absolutely hold space for sadness, but also acceptance and peace. And eventually we get there. But the point I'm making is no matter how much we have to be grateful for, we're still human and life still impacts us. And it would be great to live in a society that welcomed those discussions openly so that when you are having a distressed moment, you can find comfort and solace and peace and soothing that actually feels organic and real and considerate of what you're going through rather than rushed along because I just don't have time for this. Who has time to be vulnerable? It would be great if we change the culture. So I think what batyr is doing is going to have huge ramifications. But I also think right now, I think humanity, I think society, I think we as a culture are ready for this. I think there's this universal yearning for something authentic. I think we're all yearning for good. I think we're all yearning for connection. I think we're all yearning for the genuine human connection and experience on all levels, because I think we've seen through the veil and we are sick of the shit. We're sick of being these robotic toys that only exist to build a capitalistic society and build up a $1 billion business for these billionaires, the 1%, so they can sit on their high horse and treat us like we're the scum of the earth, take our rights away, take our free time away, make us have to basically work until we're dead and then say, oh, but you should have taken your retirement, but nobody can afford it. Tell you, oh, you should have built a family, but who can afford to feed a kid? I feel like society is pushing its citizens, and I think this is a universal situation. I don't even think this is just the US, but I think the US is leading the way when it comes to unhappy citizens right now. I think it just feels like right now the 1% is pushing us all to the brink of our existence, and we are all yearning for something more, and we're yearning for more connection. And I think we're all slowly getting off the ride of more, and we're looking more at what's real. And the only thing that's truly real is our connection with one another. And when we can show up for one another from a mental health standpoint, from an emotional standpoint, from a physical standpoint, what have you, when we can show up and connect with one another, and when we return to what is natural to us, which is being communal, once we get there and we start saying we don't have to work so hard so we can have a mansion, we're happy with the three-story, my goodness, that is a mansion. We're happy with the 3-bedroom home or the 1-bedroom apartment or whatever we have. We're happy with what we have for now. We're not going to push ourselves to the brink. We're going to worry more about living. We're going to make enough money to live a good life. We're not going to be on the rat race anymore. Once we start to push back on that, I feel like we are going to feel more unified as a society. And the only way to do that is to truly reconnect with what is authentic, what is genuine, and what is real. I know I kind of went on a tangent there, but I just think it's so important that we start to acknowledge that the shift is happening to normalize mental health, mental illness, mental wellness conversations, and truly start to lean into that vulnerability and create a society that makes it safe for us to do so. Sorry for my tirade. Let's continue with this update. In the afternoon, the Duke and Duchess attended Lifeline's InterEdge Summit. Lifeline is a nonprofit organization that provides a free 24-hour telephone crisis support service in Australia. At the summit, leaders from across sectors gathered to discuss ways to increase psychosocial safety in the workplace. Whew! If you've been on my channel long enough, you know why that hits home. That should be universal. The workplace was a very dangerous place for me on a lot of levels, mental, emotional, and even physical. And I've shared that story before. I definitely don't want to share it again. But I will say we absolutely need more safety and more parameters that center safety on all levels for human beings in the workplace. Delivering a keynote address, the Duke acknowledged that separating work from home is a fallacy because behind every job title is a human being carrying a life far bigger than their work. Say it, Prince Harry. He explored what emotional and mental safety looks like in the workplace, describing it as when individuals feel supported enough to say, "I'm not okay," or when leaders acknowledge that performance and well-being are not competing priorities, but fundamentally connected. Whew, he is saying it, is he not? Preach, Prince Harry. Central to his remarks was the issue of burnout, which he described not as an emerging challenge, but an existing reality. Quote, "For too long, we've treated burnout as an individual failure rather than a systemic one," he said, calling for a shift in how organizations understand and address chronic stress, disconnection, and loss of purpose. He also called on leaders to model vulnerability, create environments of trust, and recognize that physiological safety is not a workplace perk, but a foundational responsibility. I said physiological. I'm not really sure why. It was psychological. My goodness, I'm going to read that sentence correctly. I don't know why I said that. Anyway, recognize that psychological safety is not a workplace perk, but a foundational responsibility. Throughout his address, the Duke emphasized the value of lived experience in shaping effective solutions and how those who have experienced burnout, trauma, or other mental health challenges bring essential insights into the conversations. He also spoke candidly about fatherhood and how the well-being of parents can shape the lives of their children. He further emphasized the need for greater inclusion, acknowledging that not everyone experiences the workplace equally, and that true safety must account for diverse perspectives and realities. It's interesting he would say that. I'm sure, these comments and these speeches are written far in advance of these trips. So anything relative to anything, none of this is relative to any recent comments made by any other celebrities or public figures. But it's interesting that he says this, which again, these notes were probably written weeks ago in preparation for this tour. But I think it's interesting because Emma Grede made comments on her podcast about working from home being career suicide for women because getting time to interface with your boss helps your career move along. And she made other comments, and there was a lot more context, but that's just whittling it down. And it has divided the internet over how working from home has changed the landscape for people of color who often experience the workplace very differently when we work in office versus when we work from home. We are subject to a lot of discrimination, a lot of mistreatment. A lot comes with being Black in the workplace and having to be around people who might not spend time with anyone outside of their own community that often, and how they react to being around someone who is not like themselves, especially when they haven't been taught tolerance and maybe they have their own pre-existing beliefs. It can be hell to have to tolerate that because current work culture dictates we really can't get any help until something bad happens. It's very rare that proactive steps are taken to avoid discriminatory behavior. They can say it all day, but a lot of times you need a lot of evidence, a lot of hard evidence for anything to actually happen. And then there's still the retroactive approach of what we'll do once they've crossed the line. Meanwhile, you're still getting abused until something can be done about it. You still had to experience that experience. And working from home prevents, not all, but prevents a lot of the experiences and discomfort that comes with working in office for many, many, many people. And the reason why I think it divided the internet is because Emma Grede is a rich woman, And her background is very different than many of the people who she is speaking to or many of the people in her audience. And everyone's experience is unique. So, of course, a lot of people felt like, well, this is extremely short-sighted. And in some ways, in many ways, it actually was. But for many people, it wasn't. And I think nuance is needed. But I think it's important to come back to the mental health aspect because, yes, moving up the corporate ladder, having a strong career trajectory and really going for it does require a lot of compromise. And sometimes being in office helps with that. Getting interface helps with that. I agree. Networking is important, and getting interface when networking helps you stand out. She wasn't wrong. But again, I do understand the criticisms of people saying this isn't just a workplace thing. This isn't just a career trajectory thing. This isn't just an interface or a networking thing. This is a mental health. This is a safety thing. A lot of people do not create safe work environments. And unless something overt happens, nothing is done. Too often we're asked to just be understanding, or we're told they didn't mean anything by it. I mean, I worked at a company for 3 years with a woman who was an absolute racist psychopath. But because she towed the line very well and she always covered her ass, nothing could be done. But she was egregious with the microaggressions, and every complaint fell on deaf ears. She pretty much had the company in a headlock because of things that happened before I got there. And so essentially, if they fired her, even with cause, they were looking at what could have been a very, very, very bad outcome for them because she had a lot of leverage to really harm that company and the company owner. I don't really know all the details. None of that is really relevant. But the point is, she was very racist. But she always did it under the guise of like, oopsie, didn't know that was offensive. Sorry, Sharion, sorry. And she would make all these comments. She would talk about some of our sprinkler clients. And she was like, oh, that black lady from Oak Cliff. I had to tell her we don't go to Oak Cliff. And I was like, why don't y'all go to Oak Cliff? And why is her race a factor? How do you even know her race? Well, I looked her up on Facebook. She's got spinners on her Escalade. And I'm just sitting there like, I cannot believe y'all are letting this heifer say this shit. Like, and so I went to our boss and I was like, Jill, do you hear these comments? And she spoke to her. And this girl comes out of the office and is like, Sharion, Jill says she thinks that you're going to think I'm racist. I'm just joking. Do you think I'm racist? And I'm literally sitting there like, bitch, you're racist. And this is also uncomfortable to be confronted about. Like, it was 3 years of that. And so I've moved on from that company at least 10 years ago, but I will never forget because just because she's ignorant, which was always what they would say was like, she's immature, she's ignorant. Trust me, we're really sick of her. We just are tired of her. We're sorry. We're in a bind right now. Like it was always these excuses like, trust me, we really wanted to get rid of her years ago, but we can't. There's a lot going on. And I really don't know the details. I just know what was said to me, but I do know it was 2.5 or 2 3/4 years of me dealing with that and always being told like, she doesn't know any better. Well, I get it. She means well. And I'm like, how the hell does she mean well? And she being racist? What is meaning well about that? So I said all that to say, mental health is not prioritized in the workplace for many reasons. And so often people feel like if it doesn't directly apply to me or if I can't personally relate to the experience, then is the experience real? They tend to invalidate your experience simply because they want to debate the person's intentions. I can't tell you how often something horrible has been said or done to me from a colleague or a boss or someone in the same company or maybe a different department. And the excuse is always what their intent was. And then you always have, not always, but too often you get the, we're going to play devil's advocate kind of energy when you try to explain what's happening. Or maybe they didn't mean it like this. Do you feel like maybe you're taking it that way? Aren't you going through things at home? I remember one of my bosses had just made up this whole narrative that I was going through something. And she was like, you just seem to be going through something. Whenever you come to work, you just seem like you're coming in from a really tough time. And I'm like, I was trying to nicely say like, girl, if I talked about my life, y'all would hate me even more than y'all already do. And so like, I was literally living my absolute best life and have been since, especially since leaving. But she made up this whole narrative because she said it seemed like I was unhappy outside of work. And I'm like, every week is something new with this person making these comments, but it's outside of work that you're concerned about. I was like, why don't you be concerned about what's under this roof, the things you're failing to address? But I say that to say, those kinds of experiences are 100% preventable, and they're 100% wrong, but also black and white. It's wrong to make other people uncomfortable. It's wrong to be discriminatory. It's wrong to take advantage of your employees and exploit people. It's wrong to make people work with people who are being disrespectful or harmful to them. It is wrong to not take action. But to be fair, I'm not even saying it is wrong to not take retrospective action or retroaction, but it is even more wrong to not be proactive, because you could literally just say the company culture dictates that we don't behave and speak like that. We make sure everyone is okay. You get one warning. The second time you get some kind of reprimand and you get some kind of punishment. And the third time, we're going to go ahead and let you go. It's all too easy to cut down on that stuff. The more you show understanding and consideration for the abuser and the attacker, the more the victim is learning that this culture is being normalized and you're standing by the abuser. And I actually think that's why they didn't do anything, is because they shared her same belief system. So it was really hard for them to come down on her, because probably when I wasn't around, they were saying the same shit. And so they were more like, hey, just not while she's here, okay? That was the energy I was getting. And so I say that to say Prince Harry's comments go way further than just a speech or just, oh, in an ideal world, blah, blah, blah. Mental safety and emotional safety in the workplace is 100% feasible, and it is a very easy task to accomplish. It's just too many people don't want to discard their own biases. And they likely feel like it would be hypocritical of them to punish someone in the moment, even though they did overstep a boundary or overstep a line, because they themselves are guilty of the same belief system. And so it's almost like, I can't punish you because then I would have to admit that I'm wrong. And I don't believe I'm wrong. So they kind of get at a standstill. At least that's just my little assessment of it. But who am I to assess? I'm just saying that's what it always felt like, of like, by not taking action, you're letting me know where you stand. And so I say that to say Prince Harry's comments resonate because on a global level, we can do more to enhance, improve, and make it safe for diversity and inclusion. Too often when we say we want diversity and inclusion, are you making the space safe for that? Because the people who integrate are often going to feel what was missed. Let's continue. In addressing the role of technology, the Duke reflected on the growing impact of constant connectivity, calling for a redefinition of safety in the digital age, one that includes clear boundaries, healthier expectations, and a recognition of the human cost of being perpetually on. Oof, my goodness. He concluded with a call to action, urging organizations to listen, act, and lead, transforming insight into immediate and meaningful change. Quote, if we're honest about the world as it is, not as we wish it to be, that clarity can feel uncomfortable. But clarity is not something to fear, it's something to build from. Because we see things clearly, we are no longer operating under illusion. We are operating with choice. Every one of us will face pressure, loss, or uncertainty at some point in our lives. That is unavoidable. What we can change is whether people face those moments alone. And ultimately, that is what this is about. Well said. Across all three engagements, a clear message emerged that lasting change begins with listening, whether to young people shaping the future or to individuals navigating challenges in their daily lives, and is sustained through collective, courageous action. From classrooms to conference halls, the day reflected a shared commitment to building environments where people feel seen, supported, and empowered to thrive. I also wanted to share some of the article that was published to Hello Magazine, where they offered more insight into Harry and Meghan's sit-downs and their comments while they were at Batyr. It says, following the Scar Tree Walk, Harry and Meghan visited a mental health engagement program, Batyr, a Swinburne University of Technology. Meghan changed, I'm pretty sure I didn't say, is it Swinburne or Swinburne? I apologize if I'm mispronouncing that. It says Meghan changed into a green shift dress for the occasion and added black pantyhose and black stiletto heels. Yes, she looked lovely and her legs looked great. Meghan and Harry greeted and hugged mental health advocates at the university. The pair have long been passionate about mental health initiatives. The Duke shared that he thought Australia's ban on social media use for anyone under 16 was epic. Quote, Australia took the lead. Your government was the first country in the world to bring about a ban, he said to the crowd at Swinburne. Quote, now we can sit here and debate the pros and cons of a ban. I'm not here to judge that. All I will say is from a responsibility and leadership standpoint, epic. I agree, Prince Harry. Because so many countries have now followed suit, but it should have never got to a ban. I agree. Like I said before, proactive action saves you so much time, so many resources, and also it saves lives. So it would have been wonderful as we roll out each platform, as we roll out each website, as we roll out all these things, there was some kind of regulatory system that was ensuring that these accessible websites and apps and programs, etc., were safe for human consumption, and there were parameters placed around them for safety of citizens and people all over. Quote, and now that the ban is in place, now what follows? Because the companies themselves have to be accountable, and there's no way that young people should be punished by being banned from something that should be safe to use no matter what. I completely agree, Prince Harry. Meanwhile, Meghan Sussex explained that she was, quote, bullied and attacked on social media and called herself the most trolled person in the entire world. Well, I mean, you can say, I know I saw someone else say that she's given herself the self-appointed title of most trolled person in the world, etc. And now we're seeing it here in quotes. But I have to be honest, according to data, Meghan was the most trolled person in the world for years, many years. I believe it was near or actually surpassed a decade at this point. There is no debating that. I mean, search Meghan's name on any platform and there's your proof. You can take the quotes off now, sweetie, because that is 100% true and it's 100% provable on any given platform, which it's sad to say that. I hate that that can be proven because it's still so rampant today. We're not even talking about retrospectively. I mean, we're talking about in the moment. You could talk about Meghan on any platform and you will attract these psychopaths who have unlimited access to the internet. Anyway, quote, they're not incentivized to stop, she said during the event. And I can speak to that really personally, which is why I'd like to listen, because it rings true for me in a very real way. For now, 10 years, every day for 10 years, I have been bullied and attacked. She's absolutely right. Now I'm still here, the Duchess continued. And when I think of all of you and what you're experiencing, I think so much of that is having to realize that you know that industry, that billion-dollar industry that is completely anchored and predicated on cruelty to get clicks. That's not going to change. So you have to be stronger than that. And I would say, coming from Meghan, that is 100% accurate. No one knows better than she about how difficult it is to live under constant mistreatment and scrutiny. She has been bullied on a global scale. Hell, the majority of my videos are talking about that, are calling that out, are calling for change, are begging for change, are demanding change. But she's right. It makes way too much money. And that is where it needs to stop. That is the issue. I can't change people's moral standing. I can't change people's character. But what we can do as a society is say no more. What these platforms can do is not allow it. What these websites can do is not allow it. But it is allowed. And that's what's sad. That's the pathetic part, because something could be done. And not only that, but there's so much amazing, viable content that could be made and money could be made by not being bullies. But they still choose to be bullies. And that's what's so sad about it. So she's absolutely right. Coming from her, that could not be more valid. But she's absolutely right. And anyone who's doubting that, just go search her name. Sad to say, just go search her name. Anyway, what are y'all's thoughts on Harry and Meghan's comments? What are y'all's thoughts on the trip so far? Y'all let me know in the comment section below. Thank you so much for watching the Sharion Sade YouTube channel. I appreciate you watching my content. If you haven't already, please don't forget to go ahead and like this video by hitting the thumbs up. Please don't forget to subscribe by hitting the subscribe button. And don't forget to comment along the way. If you feel so inclined, please don't forget to share so that more people can find us. Once again, thank you so much for watching. Now let's get back to the video.
For now 10 years, every day for 10 years, I've been bullied and attacked. And I was the most trolled person in the entire world, man or woman. I'm still here. And so when I think of all of you and what you're experiencing, I think so much of that is having to realize that, that industry, that billion-dollar industry that is completely anchored and predicated on cruelty to get clicks, that's not going to change. For now 10 years, every day.
I'm going to share something that was said by a family member. I'm not going to throw my family member under the bus. I don't understand the context that this was said under, but I do remember the quote. And I remember my mom told me one time, I don't debate people out of nowhere. She said, it has to be a very important matter, and it has to be an important person who I respect, or at least I care about them or their opinion, for me to debate someone on a topic. If people are just looking for a fight, they won't get that energy from me. They're just looking for validation. And I was like, very insightful. I think I'll adopt that. And then she told me what brought her to that conclusion. She said, the reason I'm like that is because one time I was talking to your cousin, bleep, I won't say their name, She said, one time I was talking to your cousin, Believe, and she was just going back and forth with me about everything. And finally I said, what is your problem? Why are you arguing about everything? Why do you have to make everything a problem? And she goes, girl, I love to debate. I love to argue. I'll argue with a rock. And my mom said, wow, I will never respond to you again. And she didn't. Anytime that particular relative tried to bait my mom into an argument, my mom would say, oh, is that your opinion? Huh? And go on about her business. And it saved her so much peace. And I have now adopted that strategy. The reason I'm sharing that is because there are so many people trying to debate Meghan's correct assessment, her factual comments about being the most bullied person in the world. There are people who debate, like I said before, whether her children are real, despite us seeing them, besides us seeing her pregnant, besides them showing the babies. There are people out here who debate their royal status. There are people who out here will argue about anything. But when I reflect on my mom saying that my cousin told her, hell, I'll argue with a rock, I remember, as much as I love my cousin, she also doesn't do the internet. So thank God for us. But that doesn't mean everyone else with that mindset avoids the internet. There are 1,000,001 of those cousins that will argue with a rock, who just like the exchange, the back and forth. There are some people who just want to fight. And I can't believe I've never shared that story before, because it is so relevant. And I don't want to shade my cousin. I love that cousin so much. I think it was just a joke, but it was rooted in some truth, because she can be contrarianistic, and that is just kind of who she is. And you just kind of take it with a grain of salt, because she's not malicious or hostile. She's just like, she likes to tease and banter. So I just go with it. But there are people out there who don't have good intentions. There are people out there who aren't just trying to tease and banter and have fun. There are people out there who are truly trying to get under your skin, because it's the most energy they'll get in any kind of mutual exchange from anyone in their life. No one else is paying them attention. No one else cares about them. They're isolated. And even when they are around people, no one's connecting with them, because they're probably giving off that same nasty energy. So they're looking for validation. For people who are saying Meghan's assessment is incorrect, I have to assume they're in that category and they just want some energy. They want a little attention. They want to validate them. If you don't acknowledge them or their presence, they do not exist. And that's kind of the approach that I've gotten to. When Meghan said $1 billion industry predicated on clicks, on negativity, and it's not going to change, she was absolutely right. It's not going to change, unfortunately, until something is done on a systemic level. And I hope, with the amount of work that Archwell is putting in, with the amount of work as all the advocates and the people who work in that space are putting in, I do hope that within my lifetime, within our lifetime, we do live long enough to see that change happen. Because what an impact on humanity will that be? What a positive impact on humanity will that be once we have some kind of systemic change that negates monetized bullying? My goodness, I cannot wait for that day. I also wanted to point out Meghan's t-shirt, which is why I chose this shirt or this photo for our closing segment or closing summary. I wanted to talk about this t-shirt that she was wearing. Now, this is the Mama t-shirt. It's in support of Alliance of Moms, which aids expectant and parenting youth in LA's foster care system. And it was co-founded by Meghan's close friend, Kelly McKee Zaffin. And also, Kelly McKee Zaffin gave birth to her baby boy on March 26th. So congratulations to her and their entire family. What an amazing time. And I hope she and baby are resting well and having the time of their lives. How beautiful. Congratulations to her, especially after all she's been through. That is amazing. So that is all I have for y'all today. I hope you enjoyed today's video. We will have more updates tomorrow, as well as a very special Sussex style. I cannot wait to give a little rundown of these outfits. I absolutely loved Meghan's looks on this tour, and I can't wait to talk about them tomorrow. If you haven't already, please don't forget to go ahead and like this video, subscribe to the channel, and feel free to share so that more people can find us, and I will see y'all next time. Bye!